Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be, whenever you happen to be listening. I am so excited to be joined today by Sarah Applegate. She is the Director of Sales and Operations at Executive Insurance in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hopefully it is sunny and warm there. I'm dealing with rain here. But I have gotten the opportunity to talk with Sarah on the phone a couple of times and just pick her brain on different things, but also get to interact with so much of the content that she's putting out through social media, especially on Twitter. Lots of great insight. I'm excited to dig into all of the things, the little bits and pieces that you put out in social, and just kind of dive into that a little bit more today. But how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. We are not blessed with sun today, though. I'm regretting that I have to say it's been a little bit dreary today. It's very gray. So temperature is good. So it's not hot. So that's good.
Yeah. I just always assume that like the Carolinas are always sunny. Like it's just beach and sun. These are the things.
Okay. Wishful thinking. All right.
Well, hopefully sunshine is coming your way soon. But yeah, I'm excited to we've had a couple of conversations and we've really they've just kind of been explosive in terms of like where the conversation has gone and the topics we've covered. And so I'm excited to just kind of talk through more of that today, give people an opportunity to get to know you if they don't know you already. You have so much insight, and I just kind of want to walk through, where these seeds were planted and these thoughts about how to do things better in the industry and how they've just continued to blossom. Because I'm watching this play out literally in front of my eyes. I think the first time I talked to you was in December when I was still at the agency. And now I've just kind of watched all the storyline just continue to grow and grow through Twitter over the last few months. And so much information that you have inside your head and so much that you're willing to share with others. But so you live in North Carolina with your fiance and a small crew of animals. We have some dogs and chickens, I believe we talked about earlier. So yeah.
7 dogs. Too many dogs.
So yeah, plenty of dogs. Are the chickens for eggs?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a coop with 3 full-grown hens in it, and we get about an egg a day from all of them. So, we're well fed. So that's good.
Yeah. I hear there's nothing quite like fresh eggs, but I have not ever been brave enough to try and experience this myself. So yeah.
It's a good thing we like deviled eggs around here because sometimes we have a lot of extra ones sitting around. So that comes in handy. I'm very proud that part of the South I've picked up, that deviled egg thing. It's good. So
yeah.
Definitely a fan.
Yeah, that's a favorite food, but it's a labor of love. I'm not good at hard boiling eggs, so it feels like a lot of labor for me to do something like that.
Yeah, that's why I make a big batch all at once. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you have been in the insurance industry for a while. You have had different roles. Just kind of walk us through your career, where you started, how you got into the industry, and how you've arrived where you're at now.
Well, like a lot of the rest of us, I think, you kind of trip and fall into it if you don't have a family member in it. So that was definitely me. I started shortly after I got out of college. I had been working for a credit union, and I ended up working at an independent agency here in the Carolinas. So AAA back then didn't have their own product in South Carolina at the time. So they ran an independent agency internally to make sure they could take care of their members. So that's where I started selling insurance and servicing insurance. And slowly from there, I kind of ended up managing a small team. I've done a little agency development. I ended up working at a carrier for about 3 years as well. So I learned a lot about product data, the ratios that are critical to our industry. And now I'm kind of running an agency that I helped rebuild from early last year.
Yeah. So lots of different pieces of experience that have just kind of, created this storyline in terms of all of these little pieces that you're pulling together, which I like I said, we're going to dig into that some more, but I love just, I love seeing how this is going to have a major influence on the industry. So when you look back through like life and career, you know, what's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned as you've continued to develop in your insurance career?
Oh gosh, there's probably two things. So when it comes to people, there have been times where I've underestimated how much ego is involved in people's work. And whether it's right or wrong, it's definitely something that has to be respected, because some people pour a lot of heart and soul into a project. And if that project fails, a lot of people take that very personally. So their ego gets involved, their ego can get hurt. So I learned over the years kind of how to structure questions, and I say, hey, have we thought about doing this? That's a lot different of a message than, well, why didn't we do it this way? Right. And it's very interesting because having been in sales this long, part of that is what you get taught in training is communication and messaging. And that's been a really big deal for me, because there are a lot of people in our industry who care a great deal about what they're doing. There really are. I've gotten to meet so many of them in the last few months and connected with them on social media and LinkedIn. And it's been amazing to see all these people working so hard on these projects. And their heart is definitely in the right place, but their heart is also sometimes on their sleeve, whether they recognize it or not. And respecting that passion and the fact that they could, be injured if they don't have constructive feedback. That's definitely been something I think that has been pivotal for me in my career. I really do value my relationships with people very much. I'll help anybody, that needs help. And that has really been helpful for me in maintaining those relationships long term, especially with people who might communicate differently than I do, which, of course, we all know we're not all the same, but I think we take that for granted at work sometimes. And we don't always recognize how something comes off to somebody else just because their background. So that was probably number one when it comes to people. And the other one is, it's kind of a trendy term right now, but data's critical. And what you do with your data is critical. And making sure your data is correct is critical. So, and the combination of making sure it's correct in the first place, that's where a lot of people struggle. And then even if they have good data, a lot of people don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to incorporate that into their business decisions and their business planning. So the last 5 years, that's really been an important factor for me in sort of planning for success, the path of easiest win. And, who doesn't want to win the easy battles, right? So.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that as humans, we want the path of least resistance. Not that we're not willing to do hard work, but if it's hard work without progress, then obviously the frustration builds very quickly, and the odds of seeing that through go down significantly.
Absolutely. Well, and change is not easy, because, I heard someone say once, it usually isn't the change that bothers people. It's the fact that they have to change themselves to accommodate that change. And that's very hard to do. We as humans, we're creatures of habit, right? And once you figure out that, oh, heck, I have to do something differently, like me, myself, I have to do this differently. You get that little degree of dread. And it's funny because I think, yesterday we talked about hope a little bit, and I know that's going to come up again later. And, that hope, why is that important? Because a lot of people dismiss that, and it's a factor.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've moved along through your career, have there been people that have just had a significant impact on who you are today and, what you're doing now with your work?
Well, it's funny because I think, we always talk about which managers have had an impact on you, right? Things like that. And it's always funny because the pattern when it comes to managers and mentors that have always impacted me, it's been their candid feedback, that constructive feedback, because we can't always see ourselves. They have to be our mirror, and we may not always like what we see, right? We may not like what we hear, but they're the ones who give us the opportunity to grow through that, or maybe just make a shift towards something that we're genuinely better at, because people tend to be happier when they're doing naturally what they're good at. that's definitely something I've taken an approach in doing my hiring, because I want to hire people who are going to be even more successful because they're naturally good at things. This is totally their thing. And if you can target that up front, you spend a lot less time correcting things where maybe they're not as strong. And those weak points, I mean, how many of us have been interviewed where they say, well, what's your greatest weakness? What's your greatest strength? Who cares what your weaknesses are? As long as you're aware of them and you do something to mitigate the impact of those, that's really what's important. Um, Most of us want to be our best selves. It's just a lot of us don't know what that actually looks like. We don't know what we're good at because a lot of us have taken the wrong job or fallen into the wrong company or taken on the wrong project. And of course, the result wasn't what you wanted, wasn't your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we have blind spots.
Very much so. Yes.
And it's so much easier, obviously, like for me to see yours, maybe, as if I knew you better. But certainly not like claiming to be an expert on anybody, but it's so much easier for us to identify the blind spots in others, especially as relationships evolve. And like when things are pointed out to me now, I'm just like, what? Like I've been doing it that way for as long as I can remember. And there is like that stubbornness, the ego, like I can feel it coming in, and I'm just like, okay. And it usually takes me like a good few hours to like process through that, or longer. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it takes longer than that. But yeah, it is always good to have people around you that are willing to do that, because if they don't, they're setting you up for failure. And I think that's a real tough lesson in leadership, that accommodating people isn't necessarily, that's not leading. That's accommodating. Yeah. I mean, that's pacifying. But when you're willing to just kind of have those tough conversations and, share the hard truths about whatever it might be, obviously that's when you're really leading people to hopefully where they're supposed to be. So.
Well, and it's funny because we value the same qualities in our friends.
Mm-hmm.
If
mm-hmm.
we're about to do something really stupid with our life, we'd like somebody to tell us.
Yeah.
And if we're about to do something really stupid with our career or with the project we're working on, it would be helpful for somebody to constructively tell us.
Yeah.
And those who already think that they're the best, they have the most to lose because they won't grow as much. They won't add to their success and compound upon that. And I think that's something that's not an easy lesson to learn. I mean, come on, we were all 20, 23, and we thought we knew everything, right? Yeah. I mean, we completely did. We were right. We knew what the heck we were talking about. We had no clue. And I can't say today that I know everything either. I definitely know that I don't know everything, but I think moving through that lesson and into this space, that has been really critical. And I watch other people do it, and the people who are willing to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I have this problem, or what am I missing here? And looking for that feedback and the input from other people is so critical. And people don't do it enough because I think they're afraid of maybe not looking like the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if those people in the room can make you the smartest person in the room just because you connect out and reach out, like in our talks, yesterday. And I've had conversations with a few agency owners this week that have been so much fun because you build on each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, I've got this thing. Can you talk to me about this? And it makes the conversation so much more productive because people drop their guard and you can really move forward and make progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's risky, but I think what I'm recognizing in this industry is that we're creating these safe spaces to be able to say, like, I don't know it all and I need help. Can somebody help me with this? And so I love seeing the conversations just evolve and they build on each other all day long. Right. Yep. And we watch this happen where somebody that's been doing this for 25 years, I've owned my own agency for this long, I've had this success, I think I could be doing this better. And then you go, okay, well, if that person can do it better, I think it's okay for me to say, I don't have all the answers either. And so we've given each other permission, I feel like, and I love seeing how that story has developed.
Yeah, getting to watch the collaborations that are happening and the consulting that's happening it's definitely different because people are kind of opening up more and realizing, oh gosh, I might need to change because, the industry's changing and I might need to change. And then it's oh gosh, how do I do this? Where do I start? How do I triage what's most important to me? Just getting to know those things and seeing them unfold, whether it's on social media or just in phone conversations, has been really remarkable. And I've been really lucky. I've gotten to work with so many different agency managers and owners over the last 5 years, and everybody's different. Everybody's shop runs differently. What works for the person down the street isn't going to work for the corporate one in downtown Charlotte, because their leads are different, their structure's different, their people are different. And I think learning to appreciate those differences is what allows us to collaborate better. It's, hey, they're doing it different than me, but oh wait, this one thing that they did over here, this might work to fix this little thing over here. And then maybe this creative idea that maybe builds relationships at this firm will help this one over here improve on what they already have. There's no one business plan that works for everybody.
Right.
There's just not.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the franchise insurance firms that we see, their owners are all a little different.
Yeah.
They're given the same tool set, things like that, but the way that they run it, their drive, their personality, their relationship skills, they're all different. They all have their slightly different niche. So
yeah, there's no cookie cutting.
No, not anymore, at least.
No. And I think that finding our strengths and capitalizing on those, like you said before, like knowing your strengths and weaknesses, great. Knowing how to then capitalize and build on your strengths, that's what propels you into the future. And so I think like just being able to look at your business objectively, or have somebody available that can look at it objectively, so you can kind of, do away with those blind spots that you've been living under for so long, and really start to understand what your true strengths are and how you can really start using those to get the wheels turning a little bit faster in your business.
Yeah.
So yesterday, you and I had this intriguing conversation about automation and data cleanliness and all of this stuff. And then I saw your tweet this morning, garbage in, garbage out, which everybody knows. We all know this. Anybody that's worked in an agency has suffered because of this. More of the, like so much garbage in. And then how do you go about making it better? And I really want to just kind of like get your thoughts on this, because I know you have so many, but like some real practical starting points for agencies, and also like how you became so passionate about automation. Like, where was that born from? And then how you've really started to put it together into mechanics and tools that people can really start to implement into their organizations.
Well, the funny thing about the data cleanliness is the first thing is you have to recognize when it's not clean, when it's not accurate. I mean, we went through a data conversion when we changed AMS, right? And when we changed management systems, we had a problem where all the policies that got ported over, they didn't port over the policy renewal status, meaning everything came in as new business, everything. And that's kind of an important data point. Being able to see what percentage of your premium and your policy count is new business versus a true renewal, that's a little bit important.
Yeah. So, hard to understand your retention otherwise, but yeah.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, the retention was atrocious because of that. It looked like everything that had been on the books previously was new business, and it just canceled because there was no renewal to follow it. And understanding that connectivity is so important too. You have to know to question your reports and what the reports are telling you, because the reports might be relying on the wrong data. And I think that's how I've started to find some of the errors that we were dealing with. So we had that as a problem. We ended up discovering eventually that, say, the producer on several policies had gotten tagged incorrectly too. So we had to kind of back into that report and pull a list and then get that all fixed. And as everybody knows, when it comes to these management systems, there's no easy way really to bulk fix this. And it was a very frustrating project in the beginning because I didn't even know there was software out there that could do this, let alone how to use it. And that was kind of when everything changed. Is I would sit there and just go, this is going to be so frustrating. I don't want to give this to the admin. And people say, well, how do you know what to automate? Well, it's the stuff that's going to tick your people off. That's literally the answer. I didn't want to have to hand my part-time admin, this list of policies, like, hey, can you go in and toggle this to, renewal status instead of being new business? There's only 473 of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll drive anybody
Or
nuts.
when you're done crying about this.
I'll buy you lunch, I swear. But those are the things that people absolutely hate. Most people do not really enjoy sitting there and doing data entry every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Most people that I've met want to do something really constructive where they feel like they're making an impact. And I don't feel like data entry is that thing. And the biggest thing for me has been, even our, staff, once they saw that we were capable of taking some of this bulk data entry, the busy work, as everybody likes to call it, right? If we could take the busy work off of their plates, free them up to make a few more phone calls, free them up to do a better job taking care of, the book transfer client, they were on board. And they started thinking about more things we could automate, right? And the funny thing is, once I kind of knew that this thing existed that I wanted to do to fix this problem, it was a matter of, okay, what else can we do? What can we do? How do we do this? What project do we take on from here? And it was all the automatic multiple click things that drive everybody nuts. We set over 800 tasks all at once for our book transfer. And that way it's done for the rest of the year. The account manager doesn't have to remember to manually go in and click, okay, I have to set a 90 day, I have to set a 60 day, I have to set a 30 day, I have to do this. Because again, some management systems can't target renewal policies with a specific writing carrier. They'll target all homeowners policies, but not specific ones. The limitations of the systems are really where it presents opportunity to make things more efficient. Inefficiency is the one thing that drives me nuts. And I would much rather be spending my time working on a project that's impactful than having to set 800 tasks for a book transfer over the course of the next 6 months. And that's really it. I would say the things that I tell agencies to look for the most are where they have bottlenecks. If you have all this data that needs to get from one place to another and it gets clogged because it's a slow process, that is something you want to take a very hard look at. Is there a better way to do this? Can we move this a different way? Is there an automatic way to do this? Is there a way to build a bot that can do this? And it's been fun the last couple of weeks because I've gotten to talk with some other agency folks who are curious about this stuff. And I'm going to end up working with some of them on their projects, which is going to be really fun. And it's things like, hey, we have to consolidate these 157 reports each month into a reporting system and then move that number over to here. And it's a really big task. And that's definitely something you could automate.
Yeah.
And, accounting, those are other things because that's where human error tends to happen, right? It's when the numbers get keyed in and they get, fat fingered or they get typoed. That's where we see the struggle coming in. We ended up automating our leads that come in. So they're automatically added to the CRM. They get added to the comparative rater and the quote is there waiting in a holding pattern until we actually get the client on the phone. So we pull in data from, one of the real estate sites so that we know what, it knows how to quote the house, for example. There's all kinds of little things like that that can be done. It's just a matter of, what does your agency do that you can free up a few hours for your employee every day, if not every week or every month. There was a process, even in real estate, I heard about. And I said, oh, no. I said, you build a bot to do that. And it would probably take it, maybe 10 minutes. And they said, what? This takes a person like 7 hours to put this together. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's insane. And they probably don't enjoy that part of the job because it was the marketing person who had to do this. And you're in marketing. You don't want to be sitting there doing that.
No, I don't. Nope. There's a good chance I'm probably going to miskey something at some point. So,
or you're just going to stop. Your eyes are going to glaze over. Yeah. You're going to end up needing glasses. It's just not good.
So, as you talk to these agencies, what is one of the biggest struggles that you see across the board?
They don't question things enough, frankly. They sit there and they just kind of accepted that this is the way that it is. Mm-hmm. And back when I was working for Travelers, I used to tell my agencies all the time, I said, you know what, even if there's something that has been done this way for years, come back to me anyway and just ask a second time. I said, just promise me that you'll do that, because a lot has changed, and maybe you didn't get notified. Maybe the email missed you. Maybe it went to spam. You never know. And agency owners should do the same thing with their business. Everybody, all of us get so busy working in the business that we can't work on the business. And we forget to question the way that we're doing things because we're just so focused on just getting it done in the first place, because we have this task list that just keeps growing and we don't ever feel like we can catch up. But being able to take that one step back and go, okay, this takes me like 2 hours every day that I'm here. 10 hours a week I'm spending doing XYZ. Okay, there has to be a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And those types of things people need to start questioning, because manual data entry is, I can guarantee you, it is costing your business money.
Mm-hmm.
Because your employees or you could be taking that time and spending it on something else. And it grows the larger your agency gets too, because if this process affects multiple people, it's multiple hours across multiple people across multiple days. And, I would encourage you to do the math. How much are they making every hour? Do the math and see how much that process is costing you.
Right.
And would it be better to automate it or change it in a way that it could be? People need to ask better questions. People need to ask the question, can we do this differently? Might there be a better way? Because there are so many tools available now, even in the industry, to do something better. And if there's not, it can be built and customized to your system. And frankly, that's why I did what I did. And I chose automation software instead of a specific tool for each little step, because this software does all the steps in all the systems, and it's universal. It sits on anything I need to, whether it's a agency facing program or a web-based program or a real estate system or my Outlook inbox, it works everywhere. But the process time, I don't think people realize how much they're wasting every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell people, ask your employees what drives them nuts about their job. Like, if there is one thing that they could get rid of in their day, or one thing that drags them down and slows them down the most, if you open that window, you're going to find out so much about your team, and you're going to find out more about your business too, because having that space to kind of, air grievances, so to speak, people are willing to talk about that because they want that stuff to go away.
Yeah.
That's the stuff they don't like about their job. And if it's something menial that has just grown as the agency has grown, and they're doing more and more and more and more of it, you'll hear about it. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, what I see is that, like, we have to be more curious, right? Because
Yes.
the best innovation comes out of curiosity, out of that question of, like, what if it could be better? And it's okay to ask that question, and I think like trying to encourage that curiosity, not stifle it. We have hopefully, a generation of curious people coming into this industry, and we'll watch this, continue to change and evolve. But, like, I think, like, getting people curious about their business, or at least feeling like it's okay for me to ask this question. I have permission to feel a little unsettled, and maybe this could be better, and and to explore this curiosity right now.
Well, and in all honesty, our industry has changed tremendously in the last 10 years. And it is a very small percentage of agency owners who have kept up with it. And even the ones who have kept up with it, they're concerned about what's coming, next year, what's going to change next year. I mean, did any of us anticipate this virus? No. We don't have any idea what's going to come around the corner and affect our business. And I hate to say that now, because I feel like I've cursed July now, but that curiosity tends to fade because we get stuck in routine. And the funny part about that routine is the things that become the most routine are the things you should probably get off your plate.
Yeah.
You know, it's those little, oh, let me do this. 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 Like that little pattern. Those are the things that take the time away from people's ability to be creative in the first place. It takes up brain space. If you're just, you almost get zoned out when you get into those because you're on autopilot,
Yeah.
if you think of it that way. And that curiosity has kind of been lost. I find that a lot of agency folks, once they get their model up and working well, for some reason, they almost forget to look at it on a regular basis and say, okay, how are we doing? Because they get into a routine and they just keep repeating what made them successful. And it is true. What got you here won't get you over there. Or it may not even keep you here because the industry is changing around you.
Yeah.
And even though you're here now, if the industry shifts, you can end up over here. And maybe that's not where you want to be. People have to look in the rearview mirror. I put a thing on Twitter out the other day. I said, you'd probably notice in the rear view if you had a suspicious car following you around, or if that semi truck behind you probably isn't going to stop before it hits you, right? A lot of us would probably notice that, but we don't apply that to business. We're so busy looking forward and selling the next policy and, what's the next marketing plan, or what's this, or what's coming up. And we fail to look backwards often enough and look at what's behind us, because if you ignore that, like the semi truck, it could crush you. It is not something that people do at all sometimes. And I mean, I would visit agency owners, they're in personal lines, and I would say, hey, I said, I want to talk about your book and, just kind of go over results. And I know you've had loss ratio problems, and they would be astonished to learn that almost 20% of their auto policies were state minimum coverage. We don't sell that. We don't sell that. I know you don't. These are policies that have been with you for 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
And it has happened over time. It's slow. It has built up to where it's 20% of your book almost. And just the face was they're just astonished that this is happening. But when they see those things, then they can go fix them. Then they can go find out where the problem is happening. Yeah. Is it a behavior problem? Are your people getting yelled at a lot because of billing prices? Awesome. Let's arm them with better ways to go over renewals and talk about price. What really is actually happening? And when agencies don't do that, they find themselves suddenly wondering, well, why aren't we profitable? Or why isn't our retention better? And it's because it's what's happened behind you just slowly adds up over the years. It sneaks up on you.
Well, and again, it speaks to the importance of knowing your data and understanding your operations, and where are those holes that need to be addressed, and then what's your plan for addressing those?
Yeah. Well, and the biggest challenge is, and I say this with all the love in my heart, not everybody is a data analyst. And that is totally okay.
Yep.
I don't pride myself to be one either. I just know how to look for data points and put them together in a spreadsheet and review them and figure out where it's coming from. And if you don't know about data, there are lots of people out there who do. I've helped several people look through their book and find problems just so that they can turn the tide and start making more money again.
Yeah.
Or at least help them find out where the money's been leaking. You can't, your sinking ship will sink if you don't plug the holes.
Right.
So if you start seeing issues or start wondering why the revenue's not balancing, it is okay to start questioning that. And it is okay to reach out to people for help when you can't tell. Not all the management systems give us really clear reporting. And additionally, a lot of people don't know what data points to look at because they don't know, well, my car insurance book's not performing well, or, my home insurance book's not performing well. And then the next question is, okay, well, why? And the data will not always tell you the answer to that why, but it will tell you kind of at least where to look and where to dig deeper and where to start asking more questions.
Well, at least you can then start to really ascertain, like, what kind of problem am I dealing with? Like,
Yep.
how big is it? And then you can start, building, why is this happening? And now what's our corrective measure it's going to be? I do think there's a lot of what happens is, we can run as many reports as we want to out of an agency management system, right? And we can hope that we're putting it all together in a way that's really telling the true story of the business. But I would be curious to know how many people feel confident in that information, because it's hard. I mean, I remember living in report land and really trying to dissect everything and really understand, like, if I modify these parameters, why is it doing this? And if I modify these, why am I then getting the same number still?
Yep.
So really, but I was curious about it. And I would never say that I felt 100% confident about it. I would tell you that there's a lot of that operating under the 80-20 rule. Like, I think that this is 80% right, but I don't know that agencies want to have a question mark around 20% of their revenue.
Yep. Well, and the biggest thing though is, you kept saying it as you were describing living in report land. It is, why is it doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it doing this? And if you hit a wall and you can't figure out the why, what's causing this? What's contributing this? Why is this actually happening? Or where is it coming from? Get help. The thing is, there are so many people out there who might just see it from a slightly different perspective and might be able to say, well, have you considered this? No, I haven't. Let's look at that. Because then you've found and you unearthed the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, agencies who, for example, want to go from being, your traditional non-standard shop to a more standard shop, there are definitely steps that need to be put in place to make changes like that, because that's a pretty sweeping change.
Yeah.
It's also a cultural change.
Yeah.
And they start to wonder sometimes, why isn't this happening sooner? Why isn't this happening faster? The data could probably tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, if they're repeating the same things, you can figure out which staff member it is, or is this just a behavior thing? Is it a lead source thing? But it's a matter of where is it coming from and where is the bottleneck happening, and being able to kind of bust through it and really make change.
Yeah.
So, but the minute we stop asking questions is the minute that we are going to stop growing as an industry.
Right.
And so many people are starting to ask the right questions. There's no one out there that asks all of the right questions. We all might have 3 or 4 that we ask correctly and that we do really well, but sometimes when you get together with someone else, or or hire a consultant, whatever it is, you say, well, this is what's happening. Why is this? And then the next question is, okay, well, have you looked at this? Well, no, I haven't. Why would I want to look at that? Well, because blah, blah, blah. And you become smarter about it for the next time. And you kind of grow those skills as a business manager, because I think a lot of people running agencies started as an agent, became really good at it, but then nobody really stopped to talk to them about how to run a business in the insurance industry. And those are some of the best conversations I have had in my entire career, is talking to people about that. And, they've been in the business 5, 10, 25, 30 years, second generation agencies. Well, they open up and they talk about this stuff, or it's, this is kind of what I'm seeing, and I can't figure out why. And it's okay. Well, have you looked at this? Well, no, what would that have to do with this? Well, sometimes A, B, C, and D all lead up to E, F, and G. So I would look there and see, if that's valid, I'd start there. If that's not the case, then I'd look here instead, because being strategic about your business means you have to look at all facets of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be your sales team, your service team, your processes, the carriers you have, your lead source, your location, could be your web profile, your social media. It could be your renewal process. I mean, there's so many things that can affect a client experience and why a policy stays and performs well, and why it leaves and maybe doesn't.
Yeah.
And that can be overwhelming.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot to try and like block and tackle all of the time as an agency owner.
Absolutely.
So if you, if somebody was going to start an agency like soon, let's say like they're thinking like in the next 6 months, like I want to start my own agency. Like, is there like one thing that you would be like, you absolutely must do this?
You have to figure out who you want to serve.
Identify
Period.
ideal client.
Because
Yeah.
you can't be a shotgun blast approach anymore. You've got to become good at one thing. And honestly, this applies whether you're going into commercial or personal lines or anything else. You cannot serve everyone. Those agencies are the ones that do not make it. Because they'll find someone else who serves them maybe slightly better than you.
Yeah.
But if you target them really well and you perfect that process and that experience for that demographic or for that group or for that part of someone's life transaction, or for that line of business, if you really become an expert in that, your business processes, everything will flow together to where it is so seamless that they will never dream of going anywhere else. And defining your customer, I mean, that's the thing. You have to know who you're going to serve, and then you have to figure out the best possible way to do it. You can't predict what is going to affect everybody. If you're going to go after people who, own homes in this bracket, $500 to $1 million houses, you're looking at things like asset protection. It's like, okay, well, if you bring on carriers, are they going to fit this profile well? Okay. Are you going to be just in this area of the state? Or are you going to be broad? Where are your leads going to come from? How do you back into that to make sure you get the right leads that fit your profile? I mean, the more strategic that you are up front, the less of a problem that you're going to take on later. And it's an interesting thing because, you talk about starting an agency can also do this to redefine themselves at any point in time too, with the same question.
Yeah.
And that actually kind of happened when I took on this firm to kind of take a look at their book, is where have they won? What policies have they sold? What have they sold the most of? And what does that look like? What does the pattern look like? And then do the leads still look the same? Okay, great. Does the carrier mix fit this? The answer was no, absolutely not. And the close rate was really suffering because of that. Close rate tripled after they got the right carrier mix. That's impactful for a business. When you start to win more, that is really exciting.
Yeah.
Especially for the sales team. And even just taking a moment and stepping back and looking again in the rear view, you can kind of redefine your business at any point in time and then just shift accordingly, because you will find yourself naturally serving a certain demographic no matter what you do. You will find yourself naturally becoming defined by your client base. And that happens when agencies merge. It happens when they're acquired, because you may take on another book of business that maybe doesn't look exactly like yours. But what does it look like? Can you continue to serve it well? I usually recommend looking at that profile before you buy it, of course, and making sure your model is going to serve it well. But, hindsight 2020, right? But those are really, being able to define yourself is so important. And so many of us are so bad at it, right? And we're not able to walk up to somebody and go, oh yeah, this is exactly what I do. This is what I do well. And this is why I do it. If you can't do that, it's a good time to start.
Yeah.
Because that niche market thing happens no matter what. Are you going to serve realtors during the home closing process? Are you going to work with car dealerships when they sell vehicles? Are you going to become the relocation specialist, and really help people move into that state? These are all questions you can ask yourself. And, if you enjoy working with a certain type of client, it's probably a good sign. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's where you're going to do well. And I think it's so funny because, sometimes we think that work should just be hard, like I want the challenge. And I think that that's okay, but also making sure that it's like, no, I enjoy this. I'm good at it. I speak well. I communicate well with this certain type of client. Then, it's like the magic really starts happening at that point when we can really like laser in on something and really start to just expound on it. Then it's like everything starts clicking, right?
Well, it's incredibly rewarding. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because people talk about, I talk about the data a lot, and I talk about automation a lot. And the reason is I want my people to be able to get back to doing what they like, which I can guarantee you is not data entry. I can guarantee you no producer on the planet is going to say my favorite part is entering the client in the management system and building the quotes out. Nobody is ever going to say that. There's no producer that's going to say that's like the best part.
Right.
You know, optimizing the rate, sure, maybe that's kind of fun to talk about discounts, but they're never going to say, oh yeah, no, typing in all those VIN numbers is fantastic. No, nobody says that.
Yeah, I'm so good at counting to 17 now, like you would not believe it.
I know that, you know, oh yeah, is it an O or a 0? Well,
Google it. Thank you, Google. Oh my gosh. Well, here's what I would say. I could talk about automation and data with you all day long. We have, I mean, because we've spent so much time up to, that's been like our entire relationship so far, Sarah. Like we gotta start friending it out. But you have so much insight that you've developed, and I think it's because you have that curiosity. Like you're really digging in and trying to figure out how to make these puzzle pieces interlock a little more better than they are right now, and really like find the actual two pieces that go together, and not like these two fit pretty well, my puzzle's going to look a little odd at the end, but it'll be good enough. Like you're trying to create like the whole picture. And so I love seeing where this conversation has gone so far. I know it's going to just continue to grow. But I'm just going to give people a teaser. Like, I really think they should reach out to you and talk to you about this more, because you have so much to offer. And we could just do like an entire, like 3-hour broadcast on this if we really wanted to. I know there'd be more than enough information to fill that time. But I want to just kind of like, I want to just take like a side, we're going to wiggle down the path a little bit here, because we're actually like, we've already filled up like so much time already.
I'm not surprised.
I know. This is just how it goes. This is how our conversations go, which is wonderful. But I think that it just proves that you have so much information and it's super helpful to help agents really kind of start to define more of a path. Because it's that shotgun approach is no longer effective. It might have been once, just like billboards were super effective once upon a time. They're not quite as impactful now as they used to be. But if you could go back and give your younger self any piece of advice, what would it be?
You don't know anything. But I would also probably tell myself that all those things you keep questioning, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I just had to learn to ask better questions.
Yeah.
That was really, I would sit there and look at something and go, why are we doing it this way? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Why? And to anybody out there who has found themselves in that same position of asking, why are we doing it this way? You are asking exactly the right question. Mm-hmm. Trust me, because you may not know why yet. You may not understand why you're asking that question. You may not understand the depth of what you're asking, but it tells you there's a problem there. Mm-hmm. It tells you that there's an inefficiency. It tells you there's maybe a client experience problem happening. It's telling you the right thing. Your gut is telling you the right thing. So trust that part of yourself that is doubtful and dig deeper into that. It is okay to do that. It is okay to look into those things. You're going to find some egos along the way. It's going to happen. You're going to ask somebody, can you tell me why we're doing it this way? They're going to get irritated. There are going to be those that no matter how carefully you ask a question, no matter how constructive you are, they're going to take it the wrong way. I mean, you will find those people in any industry. It's not insurance specific. That's just the thing. And especially with so many people of all different demographics, age brackets, backgrounds coming into this industry, and kind of all being thrown in the mix together, it's going to happen. Yeah. But the only way we're going to move forward together is asking questions and working together to find those answers. And finding the right answer is going to be so critical for the success of so many of these businesses. And if people are anything like me, sometimes you find yourself kind of paralyzed by a decision. Oh my gosh, I have this problem. What should I do first?
Yeah.
Take a step. Just take a step. And sometimes I don't take this advice and I need to. Sometimes just take that step. You can always take a step to the left or to the right if it's not quite on the right path. People are usually agile enough to know that. But do something, or reach out and ask somebody else, what do you think, what would work here? Collaborate. Don't be afraid to admit you don't know everything.
Yeah.
That is when you will find that you are able to make the most difference, is when you admit, like, you know what, I need a little help here. I'm blind here. Could this be done this way? Or is there another way to do this? And you may just ask the right person. You never know.
Yeah.
And that's how we all become better, right?
Yes.
We're constantly learning. We're not in school anymore. We're adults, supposedly, but we're still learning. We don't know what we're doing every single day.
Right. Right. Exactly. So what does the future look like for you, Sarah?
That's a good question. So I mean, keep growing this business, and honestly, probably others too. I'm looking forward to some of these interesting projects with some other firms that I'm starting to pick up. And I've had some people reach out, on LinkedIn and on Twitter, to just kind of say, hey, can I pick your brain? And just, am I totally off base here? Does this sound right? And I'm looking forward to doing more of that. Because I know there are people out there who, it's like, who do you collaborate with? Who do you even reach out to? Well, reach out to a fellow agency owner, reach out to someone you see. I think you'll be shocked at how many people are really genuinely willing to help in the industry. And you might just find the right person to offer you that right piece of insight at the right moment. So it's worth a shot.
Yes, absolutely. And so now for my surprise question, which I did not warn you about.
That look in your eye is a little frightening.
It's one of my favorite questions. I don't want to say it tells me about people, but it's just like a fun fact about people. So if you got to play DJ for 5 minutes and you get to pick any song, what would it be?
Today's mood, probably something from like Lady Gaga.
I love it.
Yeah. That's that whole I need the energy thing. So
yes. Oh my gosh. My daughter makes fun of me for listening to Lady Gaga, but I love her. I absolutely. She's one of those people, right? She's curious. She's creative.
Mm-hmm.
She's out there. She just
she's grown as an artist. She started really young, like we all did in the industry,
Yeah.
And she's continued to be successful. So, but she has not remained the same.
She's evolved a lot, hasn't she?
Yep, she has.
Yes. I love it. So do you have a favorite Lady Gaga song?
Honestly, I get torn between Bad Romance and Poker Face. Like the Bad Romance just kind of really gets me going. And then, Poker Face is just a fun song. So
yeah. I'm really hooked on Stupid Love right now.
That's a good one.
Yes. So, but my daughter hates it. She's like, shut it off. I'm like, no, we're going to dance to it. So, oh my gosh. Well, I am so appreciative of all the time that you've given me this week. This has been amazing. I will make sure to put information in the show notes so people know how to connect with you if they're not connected with you already. I know you have so much information to give, and I cannot wait to see how your journey continues to evolve. I think there's lots of exciting things coming, and I am just very thankful that our paths crossed and I get to continue learning from you.
Likewise, how grateful I am to have met awesome people like you and so many of the others I've connected with. So I'm looking forward to continuing to do that.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.